us. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be hosting this recruiting webinar and have our awesome guests here. We have Don Crow here from the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, Division III. I have John Roman from University of Florida, Division I.
Hey, everybody.
And then the drum roll, we have Sean Sotterling from Brescia University, which is an NAIA institution. We kick this off here with a little poll question. Have you thought about playing in college? You know, some of us are at the point here where the thought of playing in college is there. And so what we're doing here is we want to talk about the process, get you familiar with the steps, get some opinions here from the coaches that are actually in the college game. And so what we'll do is, if you guys want to just, say a little bit about yourself, get them familiar with you, that would be wonderful.
Donna has to introduce her dog.
Oh, she just left, and my kids are screaming and yelling downstairs. Allie went for a walk. I'm Dawn Crow. I'm the head women's soccer coach at the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. Like she said, we're a Division III university. I've been there for 6 years. We've been ranked in the top 25 for Division III, and liberal arts type of program. Also have a lot of communication disorder type of degrees. We also have dietetics, nutrition, wellness. Let's see. We started out as an education university. So if you wanted to be a teacher or anything like that, we would be in that realm. And then we have natural resources. So if you were looking to here, this is Augie, one of our yellers. But yeah, so yeah, what else did you ask? So we're about a school of about anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 students. So cool.
Great.
Dynamite. Hey. Well, I'll go in the order you introduced this. So, hi, everybody. I'm John Roman. My technical title is the volunteer coach, which if you speak to any volunteer coach, doesn't really mean that. I'm happy to tell you all about that role because you'll often see that on coaching rosters, just kind of like what that means at the Division I level and what I do. But my specialty is goalkeeping. So I don't know if we have any goalkeepers attending today, but both I grew up playing the position, love the specialty of it, and that's what I coach here at the University of Florida. So I've been here for 6 years, and obviously we have some change afoot. So I'm not exactly sure what my next coaching step is, if that. But the reason I came to the University of Florida is that I study sports psychology. So I'll be wrapping up my doctoral training actually concurrently with Becky Purley leaving. Yeah. So and what I study there is basically how emotion influences movement and work with eye tracking. So quick overview of that is basically where our eyes look right gives us information, and we need that information to play sports or to be in the military. So what our lab looks at is how to help you train your eyes like any muscle, right? To make them better, faster, quicker, stronger, all of that, and give you better information to your brain. So those are the things I basically do here, where I work in research and then also manage everything goalkeeping and partly defensive for Florida. So it's a lot to do. And when you talk to these coaches, like, Dawn, Sean, and Ashley can tell you, I mean, you wear a lot of different hats because you have to manage a lot of things. So happy to get into anything that fits your fancy with that, answer any questions, but that's me.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm Sean Sotterling, as Ashley said. I'm at Brescia University. It's an NAIA school in Owensboro, Kentucky. Pretty small. We're just right at 1,000 students, where the majority of those students are actually just online. Our campus is all student athletes. So if you play sports at Brescia, unless you live in Owensboro, you're going to be living on campus. Our school has a variety of majors. What we're known for is our business programs, social work, education, and our biology program. And I do have to kind of give a shout out to our biology program because our starting goalkeeper in our 5th game this season made a great save in a 1v1. The referee blew the whistle and yelled, "I heard a crack." She obviously went to the ER. Doctor put the x-rays up. And before the doctor could even say anything, she said, "There's a fracture. There's a fracture. I see a break on that side." And I'm a broadcasting major, so like I don't understand medical lingo. But she was like, "But I need some type of scan graph to see the opposite side because if I have a fourth, that's going to be reconstruction." And the doctor just looked at her and was like, "How do you know that?" And she's like, "Oh, I do this every day in class." And he was going to suggest that she gets this other graph done to see their side. And she actually just on Friday got cleared after 147 days to be full back in training. And she's already sent me videos of her insane session so far. And I'm like, don't fall on your arm. Don't fall on your arm.
Wow.
But I've been at the school. Next week will be a year. And just really excited about our program, the direction that it's heading. Thankful to have people like Ashley, Don, and John, kind of supporting us and giving help to me when needed. But I'm just excited to be on here. I've never been to Connecticut, so I'm feeling like I'm there right now. My cousin lives in Connecticut. I promised him I'm going to visit sometime. And from what I see this summer, I'm going to make my first time appearance in Connecticut, and I can't wait.
Awesome. Also, Sean is one of the speakers from #SoccerChat, one of the leading podcasts. Sorry, Nick, you couldn't be on this. Maybe next time.
All
right,
Nick,
so we're gonna.
Nick gets all the superstar treatment anyway, so I'll gladly take this.
All right, so perfect. So what we'll do is we're going to get into it. We'll talk about the first slide, which we'll talk about the different divisions, how many programs per division on men's and women's, and then we'll go into what each is. Can you guys see that on there? All right, perfect. So the first part is just the breakdown of each division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, and then the National Junior College Association of Athletics. As you can see here, I got to adjust my screen just because I can't see some of the numbers. Oh no, here, let's see. As you can see on here, the different divisions, Division 1 has 205. The women's side of it has 333. Division 2, 214. Women's is 265. Division 3, which has the most for men's and women's, is 415, 441. And then I can't see those numbers. NAIA has 188, and then same thing on the women's side. And then you have the National Junior College Association as well with men's and women's. It's interesting that there are actually 131,250 roster spots per year. And I feel like there's a lot of student athletes that are in high school that don't understand how many spots are available out there. And I wanted to present this and let them know and make them aware that, everyone has a home. There's so many schools, there's so many different opportunities. And then we're going to go to the next slide, which is a breakdown. John, you can touch on the Division 1 a little bit. They offer 14 athletic scholarships. The season, the preseason is a little bit longer than Division 2 and 3, as well as a regular season. Can you tell us about a typical, preseason?
For sure. So like you see here with the Division 1, right? So when you see 14 athletic scholarships per team, that doesn't mean 14 people on a full ride. Really great teams and programs divvy that up, and everyone has a different logic to it. So when you're doing that, I'm getting some weird feedback. You guys getting that?
You fixed it, whatever it was.
Did I? Hold on. How about now?
Yeah.
Oh, that was weird. All right. So the 14, right? And every school is going to have a different method to that. And so sometimes that's incredibly performance-based. Other places that's more need-based. It really depends, right? So just like any organization, you're trying to build the best team you can with the resources you have. That's also saying 14 means you're fully funded. your bigger programs are absolutely fully funded, but that's not everywhere. So again, like parents, if you're taking notes, you want to ask, are they fully funded? And just how do they divvy up those scholarships? And I think, having experience doing this from my role, I think it's super important to really ask those follow-up questions. So if you hear an easy coach answer, right, is we try to give our scholarships based on, what we think of the player and how they perform. But I would get really detailed about that. So how do you measure that? How do you determine it? Who decides that? All those things. And at some places that's going to have a lot of input of a group. In other places, one person's going to decide that. It's also other, for example, certain teams are not going to be transparent about who's getting what. Other teams are totally transparent about that. Again, all these things are just little detailed questions I would ask. But to answer Ashley's question directly about a typical preseason, you kind of work backwards. So every preseason, actually, since I've been here, has been a little bit different from the NCAA constraints. And obviously with COVID, where it was different, but every year it's just basically how many days we have to work. And there's a certain ratio of when we are working and training to when the students are in school. All that's really in the weeds. What you want to know from a parent and soccer player perspective is that you go with preseason as early as you can, as often as you can, because you're really trying to fit in as much work to prepare for a game, and everything is more. So, for example, I mentioned I do goalkeeping, and my other part is I do defensive set pieces. So that's corner kicks and free kicks. And a typical week for us, so this all leads into before we have to install it in preseason, but then a typical game week is everything we do is per that opponent. So how we defend the set piece, how we defend the corner, and there is film with that and walkthroughs and training and all of this. So if you think of that in a typical week, the baseline has to be pushed into preseason. So, the expectation for us, for example, is to come in fit and pass a fitness test. I would say almost every program is going to have some component of that in a preseason. And then after that, what you're really trying to do in training, right, is just allow you to have a safe, competitive team right off the bat. So if that requires, and you're allowed to do 2-a-days, that's what you'll do. And what really great coaches do is they know how to balance that. So how much work is too much, how much is too little. But really with preseason, it's a little different every year, but I would just summarize it as it's a lot of work and to come in fit.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And as for, so the recruiting rules are more rigorous for Division I. I believe that they were in dead period, got extended until April of 2021. If you don't know what dead period means, that means there is no physical contact between coach and athletes, so they can't go to any showcases, any ID clinics, anything to that extent where it's in person. And so it's they're pretty strict on that, and the recruiting process is at the end, I believe the end of their sophomore year for Division I.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I believe so. Yeah. That's the rule. The exact rule of that date is not my expertise. So if that is wrong, please correct me.
Yeah, it just they keep changing the rules for Division I, making it a little bit tougher for the coaches to recruit. I don't have any Division II coaches on here, so if you guys are more familiar with that, we had one, but they last minute had something else come up.
I was at a D2 school before Brescia.
There we go. Go ahead. You were the men's and women's director of operations, correct?
At the Division II school, I was assistant coach for the men's side and then recruiting coordinator for both.
Wonderful.
So, for us, Division II, so I started off at Division I school, then went to Division II. Definitely the season, for us, I think that what gets, while there are these differences that we can see on the screenshot, I think there's a lot of similarities between the divisions as well. And I think that kind of gets lost in translation a lot. One of the things I enjoy is John is straight up love that dude, even more when he has his mustache. But the thing that I love about John is John can tell you oh yeah, hey, this Division I program's good. but that Division II program is better than that program over there, or that Division III
Right.
program is better than that team over there. So while there's these little things here that are different, there's a lot of similarities. And the Division II school that I was at, in Philippi, West Virginia, literally on a mountain. To me, I enjoyed it because it was very similar to my Division I experience as a coach, and the players that we brought in and the things that we had done. Obviously there was, a little bit less financial backing on it, but I still had that Division I feel to what we were doing. So obviously, the like John said, with that 9.9 scholarships per team, not every school has to do that. I know of Division II schools that have 2.5, some that have 1.8. So that's definitely a thing to look at when you're looking for those schools. The season is just longer. I think like for my Division II experience as a coach, it was those players who, we had a really good mix of players who were quality for our level, but also we had those players who had like that chip on their shoulder that they weren't playing Division I. And it was kind of a chance for them to showcase. And we had, national team players that were on those teams at AB. And, the success that we had as a program was huge due to really talented players coming in, because they were able to see, like I could go play for this Division I school, I could go play for this other school, but like I can get the same thing and I'm going to get more playing time. I'm going to get more involved in my program over here at this Division II level.
Right.
And, they went on, some of them went on to be conference players of the year. So, Division II, a little bit more relaxed when it comes to recruiting. You can actually try out for the team when you go to visit your senior year, which is always a good thing, I think, because that allows you as a recruit to get a feel for the players that you'd be playing with. But it also allows the players to get a good feel for you, because numerous times every recruit that we had come in at AB trained with our team, and then we would get like a report back from our players where they'd be like, hey, like, so-and-so did really, really well. This person did really well. This person, their personality is kind of toxic. We kind of something to take a look out for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's good for players to really be able to get involved, play, then be able to say, okay, hey, like, I think I can match what this team does. So, being able to take that opportunity to actually go and play with the team that you're looking at, I think is a big thing for Division II.
I didn't know that you could try out. I didn't know that part.
Yeah. And if I can add one thing to that. So
please do, John.
I love you, Sean. To his point, I think sometimes when you're a younger player, right, and so you hear I can go try out, right, it might make you a little anxious or a little nervous, or it might not be your top favorite thing, but that is, I wish we could do that, to give you an idea, Division I level, because what happens is we talk about preseason or, whatever, when you join a team, wherever you are in your play, what happens at this next level of any of these, you go to any of these divisions or conference schools, whatever, there's a step up in game speed. And you really want to understand how big that step up is for you. I think every time you see a player that comes in, very rarely is a player coming into a school and just doesn't have like the raw technical talent. It's that everything that's asked of them, where that's going to the weight room, their nutrition, game speed, the tactics, is overwhelming. And you can get a little piece of this to see, like, one, just yes or no if that's for you. But then two, that's like the most helpful feedback. So if you roll into a Division II school, try out, and like, I kind of got this, that's helpful, right? And
yeah,
I just that is one of the best things you can do. I cannot encourage that more.
And try out is just the phrase that the NCAA uses. You're really just training and practicing,
right?
But that's just the formal word to use. I try to get all my formalities in.
Well, wouldn't we consider that kind of like a walk-on per se? Or
no, we had starters, who became starters their freshman year. When they came to visit, we got them out on the field and training with the guys. So it was just a kind of like John said, it's a way to visualize yourself and go, okay, like either A, I'm at this level already, or B, like, yeah, the game is a lot faster. Here's some things I've got to work on, before I come here. So I think as a player, like, Justin, I wish every level, specific Division, because how many kids, Don can speak at this from Division I level, I can speak at, and John as well. Like, how many freshmen you get that come in, and you've got these really big expectations, and then first day of practice, and they struggle for that first month and second month. In the professional leagues they call it the rookie wall, but the college game is significantly different to get used to, and I think being able, like John said, to see what it's like, not just watch from the stands, but actually to be involved and be in it, and not just in the gameplay, but even the training session, the exercises. To be able to see in passing and receiving drills, see in defensive drills what it's like, the speed at what it shits at, can do wonders for you.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to touch more on that piece about the perfect fits for you as a player. So keep some of those thoughts there. Let's go to the Division III. There is no athletic scholarships, but there is a lot of money, as Don and I were talking prior to this, in academics, merit-based scholarships, financial aid. The preseason is pretty condensed, and then the regular season is a little bit smaller as well. The recruiting is, as it states here, is probably the most relaxed out of all three of the divisions. A little bit more flexibility when a coach can contact you, and vice versa. So Don, if you want to just go a little bit deeper into that would be wonderful.
You're on mute, Don.
Yeah, Don, I can't hear you.
You're still on mute, Don.
Can't hear you.
Am I good now?
You're good now.
Yeah.
All right. That's from the kid
There she
time.
is.
For the most part, like we get 21 games with a scrimmage before conference tournament and NCAA tournament. We normally come in August 17th for our preseason. We have about it's referred to as 15 practice opportunities before we play. And then once school starts, basically everything then would count as an extra practice if you doubled up or any of the other stuff on that. A lot of people are, I want money to play. Well, a lot of your Division III schools are private schools, and they actually control their own money in terms of grant and aid. So you actually could get a pretty good chunk of money to come to a Division III school. Now, the other part that becomes interesting, there's a lot of kids who get excited about getting a book scholarship at a Division I school, and the school still costs $52,000 to go to, where they could go to a Division III school and pay $5,000. So you have a lot of those type of things, and I get people just want to be able to say, yeah, I played Division I, I do whatever, but now for me, it's always been about figuring out where's the best place for you and get your education. We tend to more so travel more regionally as opposed to nationally. A lot of the times, we try to go to an out of region trip every other year, and then we do some fun stuff in terms of like we went to the 2019 World Cup, and we'll go to the 2023 World Cup with our team as well. And there's a lot of players or not former coaches and that it's a different avenue. Like when I was a Division I head coach, most of my conversations with our student athletes were around so-and-so got more money. How can I get more? And you're going, they haven't got more money. Why would I throw more money at somebody who's here when I need the money to go get somebody else more likely? But the other part of it is as coaches, we're not necessarily, per NCAA rules, we can't even discuss other money with other students.
Right.
So it becomes really kind of interesting. Now, most of my conversations with our players is, what's going on in their life, what they're doing later, where they're going. So it's a total different animal for me, and I absolutely love it. And it's just more personable. I think the other big difference is, and it's kind of changing with COVID, which normally we only get 15 practice opportunities in the spring with our student athletes. And with COVID this year, they gave us 114 days throughout the whole year to practice.
Wow.
So they're now looking at giving us that for next year as well, which means that our season normally goes 90-ish type days. And so it gives us a lot more days in the spring that we wouldn't have normally gotten.
Wow.
So I will say too, like in our spring season, we're allowed one playing date and then an alumni game that we can use at any point during the year. And with our spring games, we play Division II teams that are close to us. And the last 2 years we've beaten those two teams. And so my kids always ask where their scholarship money's going. So it becomes interesting, and there's not much you can say. You're just like, I don't know. I don't coach them. I don't know who's getting their money. So it just becomes, we always said consistently that you've got some, teams. We have a lot of Division III teams that could compete with the lower 150 in Division I easily. And it's just that these, we have a lot of ECNL, DA kids that come and play in the Division III level. They just are choosing a higher academic or concentrating more on their academic skills than just playing.
Yeah, and let's touch base on the merit for anyone who doesn't know what merit-based scholarship is. That is your total profile. So that is, if you take away the athletics, it's the academics, it's the extracurricular, any awards that you've won, volunteering, community services. So that is your whole profile of yourself that you can get money for. So
yeah, and it can be as easy as, like we have a lot of scholarships based on where you go to school.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have, like, if you graduated from this school, you have the ability to get the scholarship. So
so there's money, not just scholarship money, but there's money for the academic piece there, and who you are as an individual and what you do beyond sports. And let's touch on the NAIA, which I know here on the East Coast, not many are familiar with because there's not many institutions here that are within the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. So go ahead, Sean, give us a breakdown about that, because even for myself, I'm not relatively familiar with it as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been kind of cool to learn about that aspect of college soccer. My first experience with NAIA soccer was being at a Division I school. We were looking at a kid that was transferring that we wanted to come to us. And I had this whole, like, we're a Division I school. We're, in a really good conference, mid-major. And then we lost 7-0 to the defending national champions in the NAIA.
Wow.
And the kid that we were looking at scored 4 of those 7. The following week, that same team went on to play the Division I national champions and beat them 4-0. So for me, that was an eye opener of like, whoa, like this is different. I've been saying a lot recently, I think the NAIA, if you want to look at, with what we've talked about, these different divisions, is you are getting the academic side of the Division III, but you can also get the athletic component of the Division I, Division II in NAIA. There's a lot of really good players in NAIA, and for our female players out there, Bethany Boucher, that was just the Rookie of the Year in the NWSL last season, played at Spring Arbor, which is an NAIA school up in Michigan. And I know since in my time at NAIA, how many higher level teams have kind of reached out saying, hey, do you see this team play? Do you see this team play? Or, what about your own team? So NAIA is starting to kind of, I think, get a little push because of players like Bethany and some other international players. There's going to be a lot of international players at the NAIA level. And with the scholarships, you're getting your academic packages plus your financial aid, and as well as the athletic scholarships that you see there. With the recruiting rules, some people, when they always say, like, you want to hear a joke, NAIA recruiting rules, and you're waiting for the punchline. They're like, no, that's just it. Honestly, like for NAIA, Dawn and some of our friends make a joke that they want all of us to go to a showcase together, and at halftime of a game while a team is doing their team talk with a coach, they want me just to like walk into the middle of the team huddle and like give my business card and talk to people. And so for me, that was something that kind of like intrigued me about the NAI. Because if you know me, I'm pretty outgoing, and I love to talk. So I felt like that really kind of benefited my personality. So for us, I know our school specifically, compared to other schools in our conference, I know like our academic packages are crazy good. And we've got a lot of players, who for us, get our school's top academic package. And that almost covers, I would say that covers about 75% of their tuition alone and drops our overall cost to cheaper than what a state school would be. So I know for us, like the academic thing is really big for me with recruiting, because I know that if you have a higher GPA, higher test score, I know that we can get you more money academically on top of what we would be able to do athletically. So, whenever us as coaches here sit here and preach about your grades, your test scores, your grades, your test scores, we really do mean it, because that's going to be where a majority of your money comes from, is that academic based scholarship that you're getting. You're not, more than likely that's going to be what's helping provide your education. You'll get some money from athletics. But NAI, I think, our team, like for this upcoming year, we'll report on August 8th. We'll have a couple of weeks of preseason, and then games will start up. This year with COVID, it was a little bit different because where the NAI said, you couldn't start any games until September 5th, and you couldn't start any training until the 13th. What we also have is, I know like in NCAA, when it comes to training, there's the hours limits of how many hours your teams can train. We have weeks. We have a 24-week rule where we can train any 24 weeks of the year. So it gives us a little bit more play time in the spring. And we're looking at next spring being able to venture out, play some Division II teams, play some Division III teams, and see where we're at, because we're still kind of in a rebuilding process right now with our program. But NAI for me has been just like a great experience to be a part of so far in this first year almost now, and to see the quality of players that we have coming in. I've kind of felt like, since I've taken the job of being like the voice of the NAI, even though there are significantly better coaches than me in the NAI, I think they're just not as vocal about what you can get when it comes to NAI. And for our recruiting class we have coming in next year, we have a lot of kids who had to choose between Division I, Division II schools or us as an NAI school, and they chose us. And it was primarily based off of that academic money that they were able to get that was going to cover a majority of their education. So NAI is definitely a thing to look to if you're wanting that Division I level, Division II level of play, but you want that academic side of Division III. I'm going to tell Don's story, because I tell it to our kids all the time that come in to visit us, is like, I love the fact that at Don's program, her leading goal scorer can come in and say, hey, I got this internship during the fall. It was Abu Dhabi or something like that. And she can say, yeah, hey, go do that. That's fine. As compared to, I don't know, I'm sure if John's number one goalkeeper came to him in the spring and was like, Coach John, I love your mustache, but like, I got this internship in the fall in Africa, like that would be a really tough conversation, as compared to, with how Don's able to do it. We are able to do that as well as the NAIA, but also provide, a big playing level as well, to where you can still do that internship. We have girls that are studying abroad this spring and summer. We have players who are already looking at their internships, possibly for a fall campaign, which they know they do that internship, they can come back and play in the next fall after that. So I think it's if you're wanting that level of play at the Division I, Division II level, but you're wanting that higher academic side from the Division III, you're going to get both of that in the NAIA.
Well, and to Sean's point, right? Like, I think it's a great example, because that's something you want to do your homework on, right? So that's a huge part. Increasingly, right? Top three things college athletes are looking for. I want to wear the stuff, right? I want to play in the games, right? I want all the things that come with it. But really, when you're in college, it's like you have these experiences. So to not be able to study abroad, or to not know what a coach would think about that. And again, coaching staffs change, your circumstances change. But all of these things are something you want to take control over. And for sure, at most Division I programs, that's an issue. And the reason it's an issue, right, is because if that person is invested in you and is building a team around you, right, and this is at the very top extreme example, then those conversations are different. But all of that fluctuates big time. But these are things like don't overlook that. Don't shy away from that. Like, that's a great question to ask anytime you're speaking with a coach.
Yeah, I asked that question when I was at Carolina, and I got the big fat. I can't even say what Anson said back to me. Kind of a deal.
He didn't ask you if you wanted to like have some cookies and milk or anything?
No, it was more along the lines of, well, if you want to lose your scholarship, then go right ahead, kind of a deal.
So rewind. Dawn is a 4-time national champ at the UNC Chapel Hill.
Only one loss in her entire college career.
So
one.
Just to throw a shout out there. We're gonna move on to the next National Junior College Athletic Association, or Juco as we call it, is a 2-year college. It says here they can offer up to 18 scholarships per team. We don't really have those here on the East Coast. They're more up in like central New York areas and down south. Those sometimes, if you're not academically ready to go to a 4-year institution, this is your building block to get there. Sometimes, the maturity wise, you're not there either. So you want to build yourself up, and you go to a Juco where they have your basic classes. Some of them offer housing as well. So that's another option if you're not sure if you want to go to college, or if you don't know what you want to study either. This is a way to save some money.
There are junior colleges that'll beat the brakes off the top Division I teams.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I believe it. I know for like baseball.
Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
no cap.
Sure.
You look at some of the best JUCOs in the country. Obviously Tyler down in Texas.
Yeah,
huge.
Tyler's phenomenal. But again, there's 2 divisions of junior college. So you have the Division I.
Technically, there's 3, but there's only 2 for soccer.
But you have the ones that give money and the ones that don't. So you just have to make sure kind of those things. But again, most of them are in the Midwest and Upper East.
Right. Yeah. I mean, here we have more like the community college, which is kind of just the commuter university with what they obviously have the soccer or the sports, but they're not as intensive.
As a JUCO grad myself, like for me, I think the biggest thing that we hear about junior college is, if your grades suck, this is where you go. In some cases, yeah, that's kind of true. But there's a lot of kids now who are like a good friend of mine, John Friedel, was just at Indian Hills Community College. And one of the reasons why he left the Division II program and had these other options was he was like, the facilities at this community college were incredible. Yeah. He's like, I've been on numerous Division I campuses. None of them compared to what this junior college had. I think too, for me, my grades weren't horrible, but I was kind of like Ashley talked about, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I applied to 3 schools, sent 3 videotapes, because back when I was a kid, you had to send VHS tapes through the post office, and that was so expensive. My mom was like, you can only send 3 videotapes. And I didn't end up going to any one of those schools. But also cost was a big factor. Not having to, growing up with a single parent, we weren't breaking the bank for me to go to the school. And, if you, want to see, test the waters of college just to see if college is the thing for you. It's a great avenue to go, also for a smaller class size and to get that experience. And, sometimes, if a, let's say, for example, just hypothetically, John Rome is the head coach at D1 University, and you go to John and John's like, hey, we like you, but there's just another, you got to get to another level. Well, maybe John has a good friend who's a coach at D1 community college somewhere. And John calls that coach, is like, hey, I got a kid for you. We like them. There's just a couple things that they need. And I know you can help with that. That coach is going to reach out to you. And it's almost kind of like a pipeline to where, all of us head coaches have a junior college coach or 2 that we can call on, to where maybe if that kid that we like, maybe not have the grades, or maybe financially it doesn't help, they can go there, or we know, hey, they're going to get good training if they go here. And then after that year, John's going to be able to look and go, okay, hey, now you're where we want you to be. And then that player then goes to John. And so I think there's just so many ways that junior college experience can help athletes, that a lot of kids and families just kind of throw it away because they think, oh, that's the only where you go if your grades are bad. But there are so many ways that junior college can help you. And those are like John. I'm going to take Johnson's. Like those are more questions to kind of ask yourself. Shout out to the Juco people, man.
Definitely. All right, so we're gonna move. If anyone who's listening and watching this has any questions, open dialogue. So feel free to ask. If you want to hold the question until the end, that's perfectly fine too.
Oh, Don, somebody's mom was UNC class of '96.
2 years after me. Awesome.
Patrick and Christian Larson.
Deadly.
Nice. Tar Heels, right?
I keep that chat open.
There you go.
It's all good.
Awesome. So we're going to move on to how to select the college for you. So I like to start off with visit the local colleges in your area. That's a big resource to use right there, whether that's Division I, II, NAIA, Juco, just to get familiar with the different campuses. They all offer something different, whether you want to go to a big school or do you want to go to a small school. It's finding that best fit for you. At any point, if you guys want to hop in on this, I suggest, once you figure out what school kind of fits, whether that's a big one or a small one, start making a list. Do you want do you like the school that's closest to the city? Do you like a school that is going to be, by a beach, the mountains? Do you want to be in sunny Florida, or do you want to be in cold Minnesota, where there's skiing? So it just depends on what you want. Major, do you know what you want to study right now? Do those institutions that you're interested in, do they have the majors that you want?
Can I hop on that major part real quick, Ashley?
Go ahead, go for it.
Do not, for the kids and parents who are watching this, do not let a school tell you to change your major just because they don't have it. Like at some point soccer ends. If you want to study whatever your major is, find a school that has that. Don't change your major just because you want to play for that school.
Or you're getting money.
Yeah, find a school that's got your major where you're getting money. Because if the soccer goes away at the school that you went to for a different major, you're going to look back and be like, man, I wish I would have stayed studying sports psychology or whatever it may have been. So for me, like major stuff, I just had to pop in there because that's huge to me.
Yeah, no, it has on the bottom. Which one is the best fit? Would you go to this school if soccer wasn't in the picture?
I'll add on to that. When John talks a lot about asking questions, that's a huge question to ask because there's some that make it really hard. Like if you're a nursing major or anything that you're going to have clinical hours, like it's not going to fit into that athletic program. And you'll have a lot of coaches that'll be like, oh, we have that, but then they don't really elongate that answer. And it's like short, sweet. And they're hoping that you get there and change your major. Right. Ask about it in terms of what the allowance is and can they do it? Because I know some of the schools we compete against, after 2 years you have to pick and the coaches don't say a word because people don't ask.
Wow. Yeah, it's and that goes back to also picking over Division I or Division III. I know majority of Division I programs don't allow students to be multiple sport athletes, as opposed to some Division IIs. Definitely, I know Division III. I'm sure Sean at NAIA will allow it to happen. But that's another question too. Are you a multiple sport athlete? Do you want to play more than one sport? For me, I had the opportunity going to Division III and playing multiple sports, and having that academics, having my academics and then having a social life too. I'm sure John can talk about this a little bit, that like if you go to Division I, you're all soccer. There's not much else to do.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, this is a like really heavy slide, right? Because
It is. It is.
as
Get the
right,
tea
I mean,
out,
because
Sean.
you're right. So, I mean, with all the folks watching, what I would say, I'm a very database person. So I mean, I would have a spreadsheet with every column that is important to you, and I would just have a little color or a checkbox of the school that has that, and just really look at. And again, you can weight it however you want, but all of this needs to be complementary, right, with your financial situation, with your playing situation, with how you like to live. I mean, for example, one of the things, honestly, I wouldn't have told you before coaching here is playing surface. I mean, for example, most teams now play on AstroTurf, and some schools do not. And that's, I will tell you, when you play soccer for a long time, an enormous difference. So in the context of that, I would tell you, when you're looking at a Division I program, I would sort of, I think Don mentioned like that bottom 150. I would kind of have that bottom 150, the top 25, and then everything else. Because to be totally honest, those are kind of different divisions. Just in terms of facilities, just in terms of what they want from you, and frankly too, what the coach is about. There's a huge change going on in Division I women's soccer, where initially, probably like 15 to 20 years ago, it was this movement on from can we get just past athleticism? So if just someone's really fast, really great, can we get past that? To can these teams really implement advanced tactics? And with that comes the training, the weight room, all of these things that support you as a student, right, and make you this athlete. If you're at a smaller school and you don't have those things, what's great is that you're motivated to take that on, learn that for yourself. And that's a really tough dynamic, because it's really, you want to get cheeky with it. It's the difference, right, between giving somebody the fish and teaching somebody to fish. And it's totally different, because oftentimes you have at these huge programs is all of the fish are given out and no one's really motivated to figure those things out, right? Figure out what you need to do in the training room, to figure out how to take care of your body. But certainly, I mean, have two sport athletes played top Division I sports? For sure. Are there many of them? Definitely not. and are a lot of coaches going to be super pumped about that? Definitely not. So I would think about those things. But really, when you come to, if your mindset is, I want to go play at Duke, right? Since we're talking about North Carolina, I want to go play at Duke. Everything for you to be successful there, right, is going to be available, whatever that is. And it's really like you're jumping into a full-time job. And that's any big top, right? So you're saying, and again, to add crystal clarity to that, literally you get 20 hours, right? So if you're going to school, that 20 hours is going to be filled for sports on our end with everything that can help and within the rules that you can follow. But that's significant, and that's a lot of time. And the thing I always say is, like, in any program, you have to love the crappy parts about it, like the stuff that just sucks. And at every level, wherever you go, you have to love that. Yeah.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah, you have to love lifting at 5 a.m. and doing it when you don't feel great. I mean, it's just, so I think, this is such a bigger issue, but really just breaking it down into these different columns, in these different areas. I'm looking at the bullets here. So, like, which one would fit bets if you don't have soccer that wasn't in the picture? I mean, I think that's probably the best nugget of advice you can find anywhere. And I'm sure you've heard it before in other places, but I think everyone here can like underline and bold that for you.
I think the other part too is, when we start talking about fit and stuff, I mean, it's part of the reason why the transfer portal is so damn big all the time, right?
Sure.
And this year is just in itself weird as could be, because of the fact, I mean, we already have 700 kids in the portal and only 5 conferences played in the fall, and there's normally 1,800, and now you have everybody who's a senior can come back and play another year. And so, like, I was talking to a 2022 going, if your aspirations are playing Division I, it may be best for you to reclassify to 2023 solely because of the fact that it may take that long for everything to get back to normal. And
that's a good point. That's a real good point.
Yeah, and if I'm a kid that was looking at 2023 and I'm a head coach, now here's my question. Do I take a kid that has another year of eligibility left because she's played 5 years at a Power 5 school and I'm a mid-major or whatever, or do I take this other kid that costs me the same amount of money, but I may have to pay it 4 years. I only have to pay it for 1 year for this kid. And now I can use that on a 2023 that I'm going to have ample time to watch and get out and see and all that, which, with the dead period, you're not getting that. And I think those are really, I struggle for the 2021s who haven't decided in 2022s because no one's having to navigate that before. And it creates a big old cluster for them.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the point of the soccer piece, doing the research on the soccer, checking out the roster, seeing what conference they're in, how many kids do they plan on bringing in for your class, ask those questions to the coach. As a goalkeeper, it's, let's get more specific. As a goalkeeper, it's a little bit different. I'm a goalkeeper, John's a goalkeeper. The space is limited to have goalkeepers. So you need to make sure that, for your class, how many goalkeepers do they plan on bringing in? Do you want a junior, sophomore ahead of you and you're a freshman? You might not play until your senior year. So you got to look at those two. Look at that as well. And again, the big thing is, would you go to this institution if soccer wasn't in the picture? That do you get hurt and you can't play soccer anymore? You need to make sure that you love where you're going. The academics, the social piece, the area that it is in. If you're going Division I and soccer, that's all about soccer, that's great. But you need to make sure that you can fit in there if that soccer piece is taken away. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard. I mean, you guys you hear it too. It's just sad. It stinks. It's just unfortunate that happens, that the student athlete doesn't like where they're at and they transfer and they have to start all over again. Not only transfer and start all over, but they might be left with a big hole in their pocket because they have to pay for that extra year now. So if there's any questions, again, go ahead, feel free. We're going to move on to the next one. We could talk about this stuff all day long, but we want to get you guys out of here. Writing an email to a coach, a form of contact to coaches. They can tell you they probably receive hundreds of emails per day. So first thing we want to do is be professional. And when I say be professional, that is making sure that you have an email account that is appropriate. I have mine, or Ashley Kaufman, with a number at Gmail. If you don't have an email account, they're free. So you can go on Yahoo, you can go on Gmail. I'm sure there's a couple others, AOL or some other accounts you can use as well. Writing an email, make sure you do your research. Okay. Don't copy and paste. We want you to get specific with it. Put your name, put your position and your graduation year. You don't want the coach to have to look for all that information because time is precious and they don't have all the time in the world to read through the whole email to find at the very last part, oh, I'm a 2021 goalkeeper. Okay. The email content, keep it simple. Do an introduction of yourself. I know as a former college coach, I liked when I read in the body, oh, hey, Coach Ashley, I saw that you played this, or you're a fan of Duke, or blah, blah, blah. You want to relate to the coach. It sparks their interest in you and they continue reading. In there, what camps and showcases are you going to? Put specifics in there. I play for this team. I'm going to be on this field at this time. This is my jersey number. You can put in questions. Do they offer ID clinics? That you're interested in attending it. You can put in highlight videos. We'll touch on the highlight video part after we talk about the email part, but that's a very important piece of the recruiting process as well. Is there anything else in that, the email that you guys specifically look for?
Just that it's the right name.
No copy and pasting.
I would also say too, like,
Or
I want
major.
to see something that you wrote, because we can tell you if a parent's written the email for the kid, and that is always a red flag. So like, make sure it's you that's writing it, but still, be professional. Once you've built that relation, like I know for me at least, like once you've built that relationship with me, and we start texting, then it, maybe that professional style email, can send a little bit more relaxed, but just make sure that you're the one who's actually writing it. Because if it's your parents, we know it for a fact.
Yes. Yeah.
My favorite is when
they
the
want it more
parent
than you do.
when the parent emails and says, "Well, my son or daughter can't do this because they're so busy." And it's like going, you'd not think they're going to be so busy in college.
Oh my gosh. My favorite was opening up emails and saying, "Dear Coach Don." Wait, who's Coach Don? I'm
Right.
Coach Ashley. And then you forward the email on to the right coach. So make sure you have the right information. Do your research. I can't stress that enough. And the copy and pasting. Personalize it.
For anybody that emails me, if you follow our team or me on social media, if you use branding words that I use about our program in your email, I'm always going to read the entire thing.
Nice.
Because it tells me that you've done your research and you've looked us up.
True.
Buzzwords.
I think the other thing is like how many of those, somebody will write and say, I can't wait to be a, gosh, I'm trying to think of a major we don't have, but basically they send something saying, I saw that you have this major, and you're like going, no, we don't. Like, no.
My favorite is when I was at Alderson Broadus was how many kids would email and be like, hey, I watched your game. Really feel like I'd be a good fit for them. I'm really excited to be interested in your school. And I've been looking up these things, blah, blah, blah. And then we'd be like, oh, what do you want to major in? Oh, I want to be an engineer. Well, we don't have engineering.
Mm-hmm.
But you just sat there and told me that you did your research on our school. You would
Right.
thought that you would have looked up that major to see if we had it.
I think the other thing too is so many times we get those emails and they're like, I think I'd be a great fit for your program. And it's like the first thing as coaches we say, well, have you watched us play? And they're like, well, no. Like, how do you know? Like, how do you know that you'd be a good fit for our program? Like, like without seeing us play. And it's the same thing too with like their coaches. Oh, I think she'd be a great fit. Well, have you seen us play? No. And there's no excuse for it nowadays because everything's streamed live or a copy on their YouTube page or whatever else they end up having.
That's a good point. In the email also, you might want to put a reference or two, so that after they see the highlight video, they might want to reach out to your coach. So it's nice to always have that, and don't put a coach that you just met or that you just started being coached by. Put someone in there that knows you, knows your personality, knows your talent, knows your family. Just because it's going to give that college coach the whole picture of who you are as an individual and your profile. And then I had their add link highlight video. I think that's a big piece too in the recruiting process, especially now since coaches can't go to tournaments and showcases and everything is virtual. So a couple points there. Who is recording? Are you having it professionally done? Are your parents doing it? If you are doing it, parents, that's fine. Make sure that you have a tripod. The worst thing you want to see as a coach is a camera that's going like this, and also hearing you commentate the game. So please.
Sometimes that's fire.
Well, yes, depending on what's coming out of the parent's mouth.
Well, that could be definitely more helpful than, or actually, it's probably more helpful for us, but hurtful for them.
Right.
Because some of the comments parents be making is fire. Like I've enjoyed, like there was a point that we were recruiting whose mom did the filming, and she loses her mind every time her daughter would score a goal. And like I was just like filled with that energy. I was like, I want that energy in our bleachers. So sometimes it's cool. I like it.
All right.
I see Lillian just had a question.
Oh.
She said, "Is it better to have the video professionally done?" Here's what I will say as a broadcasting major, Lillian.
For sure, 100%. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Like if you had the choice between me or Sean, you'd want Sean to do your video.
That's right.
He'd be a great commentator in it too.
So here's what I tell kids and tell families is because a lot of these professional places, it costs an arm and a leg to do it. And everything that those people are going to do where they bring out their tripod and these big fancy cameras and everything, you literally could do with this. Just get a tripod for this and you could do the exact same thing. You can edit on here. You can do whatever you need to on this. And I think the thing is, it doesn't have to be professionally done. Like we've all got an iPhone or some type of phone where we've made a video and it's like, oh, that looks really clear. You can do the same. Just think about if you're zoomed in on yourself or if you're showing us like a whole, like half of a field, because every coach is kind of different in what they're looking for. All the things that those companies would do, you've got the ability to do it and to learn how to do it on a phone. So you could go watch a friend's highlight video, see how theirs is done, and you can make a copy of it yourself of your videos on your phone if you wanted to. So that's just like, and you're going to save yourself a ton of money on doing that. I'd rather spend $8 on an app that's going to edit than how many hundreds or thousands of dollars for a company to do a video for you to where you will have control over what it looks like. And I think John and Don and Ashley, you can even kind of go on this too. We can tell which ones have been professionally done because they look the same. And by doing it yourself, I think personally, if you've made the video yourself, it shows me that you've invested in it yourself. Right. You are making that video, which shows me you're really trying to get this. Now, if people are paying money to get theirs done, cool. Like that's awesome. Do you? I think is what the kids say in 2021. But everything that those companies are doing, you can do from your own phone. And the biggest thing about the highlight film is, and the parents who are watching this and all of us who are older, we remember what it was like getting in a car and turning the radio on and knowing within 3 seconds if we wanted to listen to that station or hit the next one. And highlight videos are kind of the same way. As coaches, we know within that first 30 seconds to a minute if we're going to watch the rest of the 2 minutes. So kind of put some of your big plays at the beginning, then make us watch the middle, and then finish it off with some more big bangs at the end, because your recruiting video highlight is very much like a movie trailer. I'm not much of a movie guy, but I know that if I want to go see a movie in the theater right when it comes out, it's because the trailer is what got me. And so this is kind of that movie trailer that's going to get Don or John or myself to come watch you play, because now we've seen the highlight video, we've seen the email, the resume and everything. Like, okay, this we got to see this in action in real life. So in all that stuff, you don't have to have a professional studio do it. You can do it yourself. Trust me.
Well, and I think to that point, right, if we're talking about content, I can give some insight into the goalkeeper world. Yeah. I mean, I think especially with one of the things Sean's saying, remember the goal of the video, right? So when he's saying a trailer, but all that goal is to further your process with them, right? And I think 30 seconds is quite a bit of time to expect. I would tell you 10 seconds, if that. If you're unknown to that coach, if you're not connected to them, if they haven't seen you play, and just from a goalkeeping standpoint, one thing I'll tell you is that we actually have one of the coaches on our staff has this joke he loves. What Alan Kirkup will say if you ever ask his great joke is,
love him.
Yeah, actually, someone on this panel was coached by Alan Kirkup, I believe.
He's my ODP coach.
That's
and his
right.
wife, his second wife coached me for club.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Alan's one of our coaches here at Florida. He's the absolute man.
He's awesome.
Yeah. But in going that, one of his jokes is he doesn't get highlight videos of goalkeepers getting scored on, and neither do I often. And one of the things to think about with goalkeeping is it's totally different in the highlight video world. What I would tell you to include is training content, 1000%, because there is a group of coaches who are a lot. A group of coaches, a lot. That sounds right. There's an immense group of coaches, and what they will do is simply recruit a goalkeeper if they are over 6 feet tall. 100%. So if you are over 6 feet tall, please put that in your email, however you do it, however you communicate with them. But they'll just go with that, and they'll take this raw mold because, again, the women's game is totally different than the men's game in certain ways, and one of them is on how crosses and long service are delivered. So if you watch the Premier League, how that ball is struck and where a goalkeeper contacts that ball or not, and how they get there, is completely different than the women's game, just for a ton of reasons. And one of them being the really big difference between where that ball can be headed and the contact needs to get there is just kind of much more meshed in this total throng. And if you watch the ACC championship of Florida State and Carolina, right? So those corners are served in right on top of somebody. And you don't see that as much in the men's game. And so I'm saying all this to say, with goalkeeping, how you develop your technical ability, how you understand the game as a modern goalkeeper, how you play with your feet. So some people in some programs if you're over 6 feet, will recruit you. Other programs, if you can play with your feet, like a field player, will recruit you and teach you goalkeeping. But the content you want in there is to show the basics, is to show, have you had goalkeeper training? Frankly, is that goalkeeper trainer doing a good job on many things? And to be totally blunt with you, often the answer is no. And
Leon, you do a great job.
And so at the end of the day, that's what you want to show, right? You want to show, like, are you this template that the coach can work with and add to their program? So those are really key things to think about with goalkeeping.
Nice. So what would we say an average length of a video should be? 4 minutes?
I say 3 to 4, nothing over that.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be 3. It could be 2.5. Like, for me, I think a good one, you're going to get somewhere between 3 and 4.
Okay.
And I think the creativity in there, right? Certain things I've seen that I think companies are trying to do that are great are adding interviews into those of you speaking about who you are, what you're about. Because I can tell you, I mean, every coach wants a mature player to recruit. Like that puts you, I can't even tell you, at the head of the line. So the more maturity you can show and communication skills and hopefully reflect the great parenting you've received, puts you way ahead on there. So another thing to think about adding in.
Yeah.
And I take it, Leon, are you above 6 feet tall?
I think the other thing too, in those instances, those so work in your favor because you can show your personality. You know, we get so many of those a day, and it's like, oh, here's another one. And then, you know, if you can make us laugh, if you can entertain, if you can put something in there where you're going, I need to go see that person. Like I need to figure out what the heck this person's about. Those are the, you know, the ones you remember, like, you know, that are outside the box are the ones that really have the best chance. You know, like we get a video or we get an email, like, can you pick up the phone and call? Like, those are things that, you know, again, set yourself different from somebody else.
Yeah. Music's important too. So make sure you're putting appropriate music in there. Sometimes there are cases where there is some derogatory words, and so just let's keep that upbeat and PG.
Bring the bounce.
Or I like, all I do is win, no matter what.
Hey.
And it better
Right?
not be a goalkeeper getting scored on all the time.
That's right. It's true.
It'd stand out.
It would.
It would.
Yeah. I think that you should put, different parts of your game in there, but you say that you're, I hated this as a keeper, that they'd be like, oh, I'm really good at diving. And then all I saw was punts and long punts, or I'm really good at distribution. And it was not that at all. It was
And if you're struggling to know like what to put on your video, like say for example, like you're talking with Dawn and you say like, hey, like what do you look for in your holding midfielder? And she'll give you like all these things that she's wanting her holding midfielder to do. Then that gives you an idea of, okay, if this is what she's looking for in a holding midfielder, here are these pieces where, oh, I did, this first thing Dawn told me, oh, I did that in this game. Get that clip, put it in. Oh, I did this part too. And put those things that showcase you in that role on the field. Because ultimately, like, that's your highlight. Like, I don't want to see a 4-minute video of just you banging goals all the time. Like,
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I love banging goals. Don't get me wrong. But, like, there's so much more to the game than just scoring goals. Like, what's your passing like? What's your diagonal runs like? Just depending on the role that you're on. So I highly suggest, maybe even ask your own coach, like, hey, like, what is it that you want me to do in this position to make our team succeed? And then take those things and use that to make your highlight video.
And I would even say I love it when players include mess ups, where it's like they get the ball taken away from them, and then like, what do they do for the next 30 seconds? Like, are they sitting on the ground pouting and then yelling at the referee because a foul wasn't called, or are they, showing the grit and determination we all kind of want and are finding a way to win that ball back? Those are big things, coach. Half the time I'm more concerned with how you react to a mistake as opposed to what you do, how many times you're successful, because, once you move up levels of play, you're going to be making more of those mistakes. And that's, contrary to what people think, those are how you get better as a player. And the more opportunities you have to do that, the better off you're going to end up being.
Yeah, good point.
And I think with that, right, simplicity is key. Like there is not, these juggling turns and all these things. So, and especially like when we think of goalkeeping, I stick with that again. And it's the same thing with field players. How do you strike the ball? Like when you approach the ball from 1 step, 2 steps, how do you do that? And then where can you put it? So can you do those basics, right? It's so funny, Ashley. I've heard goalkeepers say, I'm good at diving. And for me, I don't know what that means. Like, and the reason I say that is because great. I
can dive.
I love
water.
Diving. And I'll tell you too, I love shot stopping. Like, I think it's the coolest, most fun thing to do training. I will tell you, in the modern goalkeeping world, we do a session like you think of, and a lot of goalkeeper coaches love to make exclusively what they do, of just smacking the ball at you and moving you around. We might do that 2 or 3 times per season as like a big reward, because everything else that happens is really like situational, right? So like, show that in your highlight video. So show how you move around the 6-yard box dealing with a cross. Show how you approach a 1v1, right? Can you do all the modern stuff you see on TV and spread and use what the Americans call, right, the K save, all that? Can you do that? And in the highlight video, that's what you should show. It's not, were we playing this crap team and I bombed it from midfield? Like, think of, it's a resume.
Yeah, I was doing a session the other day and I was talking to my keepers and I said, it's great to make the save, but if the ball goes out of bounds, it's a corner. So can we focus on clean saves? Because that's going to stand out too. Difference between holding the ball and keeping it or giving the ball up for a corner kick. And I think especially in the women's game, that's really, really important right now, because corner kicks are dangerous in the women's game. So
Percentage wise,
Unless you play
way
us,
more so than
we
yeah.
only made one out of 165.
what? 100.
Is that
We
right?
scored one.
That can't be right.
One. But I will say this. This is the part that made me laugh, was because we only gave up one defensively. It
There you
made
go.
no sense
Wow.
that we couldn't finish more than one attacking wise. Out of
Is Nick Rizzo your
165.
coach?
That's a good plus minus.
I don't know if I'd call that a good plus minus.
All right, so moving on, we're gonna go. The last slide I had was ID camps and clinics, and I know that there's some on this webinar that have been starting to get bombarded with emails from Future 500, Exact Sports, USID, ID USA, and all these other companies that are out there promoting ID camps and clinics. So first thing was, what's the difference between a showcase and an ID camp clinic? Well, a showcase is more of a tournament with a lot of games going on. Coaches don't have the time to sit at a full game and watch it. So they might hop around, stop at one game for 10 minutes. If they see someone they like, maybe they'll stay for an extra 5 minutes, take some notes, and then move to the next game. Right now, showcases are tough. I don't think you guys are really going to showcases right now.
Yeah, I am.
You are going to them?
Yeah.
I think they're still doing the ones in Florida, a few. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like National League was this week in North Carolina.
So with that, how many players are you expected to watch or email? How many people email you about those tournaments?
I have some that email so late that I can't even put them on the schedule. But I mean, I would say anywhere from 50 to 150, depending on the tournament.
Yeah. So the coaches' time is precious at those tournaments. So if they like you, they're going to stay a little bit longer. If not, or if they don't know who you are, they might hop to the next game. An ID camp and clinic is where you're going to get, it's more intimate. The coach is going to be there for the day or the couple days. As we're familiar with the Exact Sports camps in the Future 500, it's over a period of a day or two, or even a few hours. But you're in a facility, you're together, and the coach can really sit there and watch you and evaluate you and give you more feedback. A lot of these ID camps and clinics, you will get that evaluation from the coach. It's not directly from them, but through an application or a sheet of paper that's PDF to you. And right now with COVID, I feel like this has been the way to recruit right now. Through going to these ID camps, and it's a lot of virtual. So I think a lot of coaches are taking advantage of this. I'm not sure if you guys are actually traveling by plane to like the East Coast or the West Coast. So
They won't let me.
Yeah. So being able to go to an ID camp or clinic is important for the coaches to see you.
One of the pros and cons of the state of Florida is there's very little rules on travel. So wherever you stand on those things. I mean, So, just when you come to these things, you're going to have the coaches that can attend. But one of the reasons I bring that up with what Ashley's saying, and with all of us here, anything you go to, especially like that you're paying to go to, whether that's a showcase or whether that's one of the ID camps or whatever, if a coach wants and knows about you and is interested in you, they will find you. I promise. Mm-hmm. But that's very few of you. And often that's like 5%, if not like 1% of the people that they interact with, but they'll find you. The reason I say that is that if you're interested in them, do the same thing. I'm always shocked at any coach, any level, anywhere, how few of the players at that showcase, that camp, approach that coach and just, or even just seek information about, some way to interact with them. Especially because when you're at those ID camps, they're there to coach you, right? In some capacity, there is some component of that. So take advantage of that.
Yeah, and that's just like the email, that's something that is going to stand out to the coach later on. Oh, I remember that kid. They see you at a tournament. Oh, I remember that kid. She came up to me and introduced herself. Great person. Let's watch her a little bit more.
And I think too, because like with showcases, I think with NCAA, like you can't talk to the kid until after their last game is played. So like compared to, a coach may go watch you play, but they may not have the opportunity to talk to you because maybe your last game's on Sunday, but they've got to fly out Saturday night. As compared to that ID camp, like you're going to be able to chat with the coach and they're going to be able to chat with you.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing too, is like if you go to an ID camp and let's say you're a defender and all my defenders, I've got a slew of them or whatever in that class, then it's like, all right, I might not be looking at a defender, and you'd be able to know that based on a conversation as well.
Yeah, and I think ID camps and clinics, you also get to know the personality of the coach too. So
Unfortunately, sometimes
it goes hand in hand. So the coach might be watching you, but you're also able to judge and see if you actually like the coach and see if your personalities fit. Because that's a big piece of it too. I mean, you're going to interact with the coach throughout the course of the year, almost every day. I know. Me, I loved my coach. I was going into her office and would just hang out sometimes, just because we clicked so well. So you want to make sure that you like your coach too. You like their style of coaching. You like some of the drills. You like the interaction, their instruction, their tone of voice. Are they all business, or do they goof around with you on time to time? Because yes, it's all business, but you need to have fun at the same time.
Yeah, I think the interesting part, I think we hear a lot is, from players going, oh, I'm so nervous to go up and talk to them. Well, if we're going to be coaching, you're going to have to talk to us at some point, right?
Yeah.
might as well get in there and get it over with quickly, right? Rip off the Band-Aid.
Exactly. Yeah. Are ID camps worth it? I think so. I think you have to just pick and choose which ones you want to go to. They can be expensive. And whether that's an ID clinic through one of the programs, the Exact Sports or the ID USA or Future 500, or are you going to go to a school at an ID? You guys chatting over there. Or are you going to go to an ID clinic at the school where, this is where you want to go. You're on campus, you see the school, you see the coach, you might interact with some of the players. I think it is important for the overall fit.
John, you got to leave us?
I do. I got to jump off here, folks. Ash, you mind if yeah, I'm sorry. I got a hard 7:30 here. If you can I leave one final note for your
go
group?
For it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think what's really hard in the recruiting process, right, is that you have done soccer for a big part of your life, right? And so far, that has hopefully been something that you really enjoy. And you cannot lose that piece wherever you go. And there are certain people, and for example, I'm one of them. I want to play at the most competitive, most intense place. And in my mind, I will just figure out how to get onto the field. And that may be you and it may not be you. And there's other people like, I have to play. And I just have to play. And that's a certain person. But when you go against who you are in the recruiting process, that's why the transfer portal is so huge, right? You can't control that some coaches feed you a load of crap and some coaches promise things they can't deliver. And some coaches have 3 feet out the door when they're talking to you. You can't control that. What you can control is knowing exactly what you are looking for. And I think what Ashley's presentation does really well is you have to figure like that this has to be a full-time after school, like basic class you are taking to figure out what you want. And the people that do that have a great time. Like they just do. But the last thing you want to do is be in a situation where you're like, how did I get here? And that's a really rough one. So please, for everyone's sake, avoid that in your own, most of all.
Awesome. Thank you, John, for joining us.
Love you, John.
For sure.
Send this up here, please.
I'll send some warm up there. There you go.
Yes, please.
Good to see you.
I miss you, John.
See you on.
Bring your mustache back.
All right. So we just have on at what age should a student athlete attend a camp or clinic? What do you guys think on that one?
If you can find a camp that's age appropriate, obviously, colleges are doing like the middle school camps, or they're doing the high school camps. I think you gotta find what's appropriate for you. The ones where I see it's like 8th grade plus high school, I always I don't know, it always kind of makes me feel weird, because an athlete's body is just so different in 8th grade as it is compared to freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. And if you're an 8th grader and you go to that and maybe you don't perform well, or obviously physically you're going to be significantly different than the rest of the people who are playing. I couldn't even think of mentally what that would do for me as a player. Cause Don and I have worked camps where we've seen those 8th graders who just kind of look out of place. But you see them over on the side doing their juggling and stuff, and you're like, make that happen in this. So I think it's just finding when it's age appropriate. A lot of schools are using those middle school camps. It's kind of like an ID camp for them, because they're sitting there getting to see you play. Maybe then they invite you, hey, when you're in high school, why don't you come to this camp? But I definitely think, high school age for sure when it comes to ID camps, like an Exact or some of the others. I think you definitely need to be in high school around that, because I think what Don will kind of add too is that recruiting process starts when you want it to. If you're a junior that's on this call, or a senior, whatever it may be, it's never too late. Your recruiting process starts when you want it to. And if you want to start that recruiting process in the 8th grade, start sending that stuff out, just getting your name out there and letting yourself be seen, but then, really getting into it when you're a high school player. And that's when, to me, I think that's the perfect time to start seeing what you're up against by going to camps.
I think the other thing is you're putting yourself out there. Like for me, if I'm a 9th grader and I'm starting and playing on my varsity team, like that gives you a little bit of a heads up in terms of the fact that, okay, maybe I could play at maybe a little bit higher level college, but like those are also the people you're going to be competing with in college, And so it gives you that first good, and that's why I actually really like high school soccer, because it gives you a chance to be a leader, and you may not be one on your club team, and you have different players you're playing with, or maybe a different position. But again, if you're having an impact as a freshman, sophomore in high school, you're probably looking to have a little bit more of an impact when you would go off to college. And then again, the type of player you are as a freshman is going to be drastically different, we hope, by the time you're a senior. I think the other aspect that we really haven't talked about is the recruiting process doesn't stop once you figure out where you're going, because the reality of it is every single college coach is wanting you to get better than what you were when you finally said, yes, your school's where I want to go. And so, that's when, it's almost like that's when the hard work actually starts, because now you know what the fitness standard is. Now you know what the other stuff is that you have to be prepared for. And, let's be honest, you can't be too fit your first year in college.
Yeah, and I like, and that's why I like the ID camps and clinics, because you can go up to the coach and ask questions like that. Coaching myself, the preseason was rigorous, and the players had to pass tests. Whether that was a beep test or a shuttle run, or juggling, or fitness, or squatting, bench press. Those camps, clinics give the opportunity to open up the dialogue for more questions and to be more prepared.
Yeah, I think, a couple things I'd kind of be leery of. Like, I know that there's a school in the Big East where I always find it funny, because when they come in for their ID camps, he gives their players answers to questions kids may have, as opposed to let the kids answer them. And I think that tells you a lot about their culture,
right?
In terms of what he's kind of hiding or whatever. We let our players leave with the recruit, and then I talk to parents and ask, answer questions they have. And, that's more about the fact that obviously I want our student athletes to be, nothing's off limits in terms of questions to ask, because we want you to be as prepared as possible if you ever came here. And, you know, I'm not doing my due diligence on the players coming if you know, they're not asking those type of questions either. And, you know, we want them to ask those questions.
Yes. So getting further into the process, what you said, having the players go off with the prospective recruits.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about overnighting. Would you suggest once they figure out where they want to go? And
I would. I would. Well, obviously, right now most of us can't have
with COVID.
people on
I know
campus.
we
right,
can't do
you can't
overnights.
with COVID.
Yeah. But we have our kids in. We try to get to know the players as much as possible, because here's my thing. Like, we don't have tryouts except in the spring for us of people that are on campus, because I can act like I am cheerful and, you know, so excited all the time. And, you know, I'm not a Debbie Downer. I can do that for 2 days. Right. But if they're working out with us in the spring, can they get it up at that 6 a.m. and still be all cheerful and whatever for, you know, 6 straight weeks? We want to know the type of people they are, because to us, you know, the character drives the process. And if our process is too hard for them and they want to, you know, kind of cheat the system, well, they're not hurting us, they're hurting themselves in terms of that process. And they're not, you know, the other side of it is they're not wasting eligibility by trying out in spring. So, you know, it's a win-win for us. So if it's somebody that we end up wanting, then they still have 4 years of eligibility left. But we want our players to get to know them without me being there, getting, you know, a lot of that, because, you know, the true questions come out, right? Well, what are parties like? Well, what are this like? What is this, you know? And our players will come back and be like, I don't think they fit our culture. And then, you know, we've said no to DA kids and ECNL kids because that's not the type of school we're at. I'm not babysitting. I got 6-year-olds of my own, and I guess it's not babysitting when they're your own kids, right?
Facts.
No. Well, if there's any questions, you know, feel free to shoot them right now. We've had, you know, Don and Sean on here for an hour and a half. You know, they got to get back to their kitties and their dogs. So if you have any questions, I'm going to give you guys about a couple minutes to shoot them at us. If not, we'll let you go. And if you have any questions for these coaches specifically, you guys can contact me and I can pass them on.
Thank you for having us.
I'll put my email in the chat too.
Who would not want to play for you, Sean? You got the best hair ever.
Stop. Stop it. So I just put my email and Twitter account in the thing chat. And I'll also put our social media for our program is the same username on all platforms.
Yes. I was sad you closed your team's store. I'm so sad that you closed it. I wanted to get something.
You had 2 weeks, Ashley. 2 weeks to get a shirt.
Listen, I'm really slow on that social media part. Liv, you're welcome. Leon, thanks for joining. Lillian, good job. Thanks for being here. Yay.
Woo.
I feel like we could talk about this process forever.
Oh, totally.
Because you can. Because you can.
Yeah.
Maddie B, where's your questions, Maddie?
Maddie B, where you at?
Where are you at?
Maddie B's in
what's good? What's
Milford.
Good?
Milford?
Yeah. Thanks, Campbell. Tell your parents I said hello. Thanks, Patrick.
I miss Connecticut.
It's been very cold and wet the last couple days. Actually, not cold now. It's been just rainy.
I will say that when I was up there, so Sean, I lived in Fairfield, right? And my guilty pleasure, like I can't believe I'm gonna say this. I am secretly like obsessed with Martha Stewart. And and I would like run.
Hold up. I've known you for how
Bye.
long?
I would run by her. I'd try to go by her house on a run in Turkey Hill.
No, you would not.
I would. I know, isn't it funny to think about?
All right, let's see how to get us off air on this. I think this ends the